The story of Britain over the past 2 decades is not the story we were promised. It is not the story of prosperity, of rising wages, of a nation rewarded for its hard work. Instead, it is a story of collapse. A story of betrayal. A story of ordinary people paying the price while the elite sip their wine and shrug. From the ashes of the 2008 financial crash to the long shadow of austerity, from the broken promises of COVID to the suffocating grip of inflation, Britain has been living through an endless chain of crises. And now, as Keir Starmer stands before the Labour Party conference, promising stability and control, one haunting truth echoes across the country: his words cannot hide the storm that has already consumed the lives of millions. This is not just politics. This is the unravelling of trust, the hollowing out of hope, the slow bleeding of democracy itself. Before we dive deeper into this dark and twisting journey, take a moment to support the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to Echo Britain, and leave a comment below. Do you think Keir Starmer's government can still save Britain's broken economy, or are we watching Labour crash before our very eyes? Your thoughts are the heartbeat of this community, and every comment fuels the debate that politicians would rather silence. It began in 2008. The crash that shattered illusions. For the elites, it was little more than a source of embarrassment at dinner parties. A hiccup, soon forgotten as they returned to their bonuses, their city drinks, their lives of comfort. But for workers, the story was very different. Between 1945 and 2008, wages in Britain rose consistently. Each generation, on average, was better off than the one before. Progress was not a dream, it was a lived reality. But after the crash, that progress stopped. It froze. It died. If wages had continued their steady rise, today's average worker would be £11,000 richer every single year. Instead, millions are left counting pennies, trapped in jobs that barely cover the cost of living. This was the first betrayal. The first turning point where the promise of Britain began to fracture. But the wounds of the crash were not left to heal. They were cut deeper, deliberately. From 2010 to 2019, austerity became the weapon of choice. Public services were butchered, communities gutted, councils left bankrupt. The numbers tell the horror: a 4% real terms cut in spending, the sharpest axe Britain had ever seen. Local government took the heaviest blow. In just the last 2 years, councils have sold off £2.9 billion worth of public assets, sports clubs, day centres, the very heart of communities, auctioned off to survive. Austerity was not just an economic policy. It was an assault. And the scars remain carved into every town, every city, every struggling family still waiting for help that never came. But the storm did not end there. No, it only deepened. As wages stagnated and austerity hollowed out communities, the nation faced another blow that no one could ignore: the global pandemic. Politicians flooded the airwaves with calls to protect the NHS, to stand by your nation, to play your part. Essential workers, nurses, delivery drivers, carers, supermarket staff were hailed as heroes. Britain clapped from balconies and banged pots in unison. Promises were made, whispered like lifelines: things will be different on the other side. But promises are fragile things. And these ones shattered almost as soon as the applause faded. Instead of rewards, essential workers were handed more of the same stagnation. Prices began to climb faster than wages. Food costs have risen by a staggering 38% since 2021, and the forecast warns of another 6% rise yet to come. Household energy bills? 44% higher than during the winter of 2021, with the cap set to rise yet again. Families living on the edge were pushed into despair. And while ordinary people counted pennies at the checkout and rationed heating in the cold months, others feasted. Tesco handed £12.4 billion to its shareholders since 2021. The top 200 energy companies raked in over £30 billion in profits in 2024. Unite's research revealed the ugly truth: average profit margins have soared by 30% since before the pandemic. The system was no longer just failing, it was rigged. Workers bled, while corporations fattened. Communities struggled, while executives cashed in bonuses. And amid the cries for relief, politicians argued over numbers, fiscal rules, and abstract black holes in the economy. It became a theatre of excuses, not solutions. And so, the great disillusionment grew. The government, chained to arbitrary fiscal targets, panicked with every new economic headline. The obsession with short-term fixes led to long-term damage. In their desperation, ministers pitted pensioners against the disabled, workers against their neighbours, turning struggle into competition, suffering into division. Labour, the supposed party of workers, doubled down on Liz Truss's reckless promise, restoring mega bonuses for bankers. A betrayal dressed as pragmatism. Even the Resolution Foundation delivered a damning verdict: this was the weakest spending review since George Osborne's austerity years. Between 1966 and 2010, health and social care spending grew by an average of 4.2% each year. Today? Just 2.8%. Other departments suffered even worse. It was a slow bleed, a withering of the state itself. But history tells us it does not have to be this way. After the Second World War, Britain's debt-to-GDP ratio was a staggering 250%, more than double what it is today. And yet Clement Attlee's Labour government made a choice. A bold choice. They built the NHS. They launched massive public investment. They rebuilt a nation shattered by bombs and war. Even in the 1950s, public investment stood at 7.3% of national income. Today? Just 2.7%. Far below the average of advanced OECD economies. Britain once dared to invest in itself. Now, it barely whispers. Meanwhile, Germany is roaring ahead. Labour boasts of putting £50 billion into the National Wealth Fund and the British Business Bank. Yet Germany's state institutions hold funding on a scale that dwarfs Britain's ambitions, €1 trillion in resources. Its KfW investment bank alone wields €580 billion, while a newly created special fund pumps €500 billion into defence and infrastructure. Compared to that, Britain's plans are not bold. They are timid. And so the question grows heavier: if others can act, why not us? The truth is uncomfortable. There are solutions. Unite has pointed to them. Academic experts have mapped them out. Choices exist, choices that could raise over £50 billion a year. A mere 1% annual wealth tax on the top 1%. Equalising capital gains tax with income tax. Extending national insurance to investment income. These are not utopian fantasies. They are achievable. They are real. And they could restore public services without crushing ordinary workers under higher taxes. But Keir Starmer will not speak these words. Not at conference. Not now. Because they demand a break with the failed economic dogmas of the past 2 decades. A break his government fears to make. And when leaders refuse to act, people search for others who will. Already, within Labour's own ranks, murmurs rise. Whispers of Andy Burnham as a challenger to Starmer's leadership. For some, the Mayor of Greater Manchester represents a bolder vision, a figure unafraid to speak to the frustrations Labour dares not confront. Others look further afield. To Reform UK, where Nigel Farage and his allies channel a different kind of anger. Their appeal is not only about flags or culture wars. It lies in the sense, real or imagined, that they might actually change something. This is the danger. When traditional parties fail to offer solutions, when they dismiss the pain of the people, discontent mutates into something darker. The marches with Tommy Robinson are often portrayed as the domain of racists. But the truth, uncomfortable as it is that many who walk in those crowds are there not out of hatred, but out of desperation. They believe the system is rigged. They march against a cost of living crisis that feels endless. Against an economic order that seems broken beyond repair. And so democracy itself begins to tremble. Both main parties, at their conferences, present themselves as guardians of stability. But stability is a lie when built on broken wages, gutted services, and endless corporate profiteering. The people are not blind. They see. They feel. And they are losing patience. So the real question now is not whether Labour or the Conservatives will weather this storm. The question is whether democracy itself can survive if nothing changes. Because history warns us, when people are pushed too far, when hope is extinguished and voices go unheard, they will seek answers in places no one expects. And when that day comes, it will no longer be about polls or conferences. It will be about survival. Britain stands at a precipice. The cracks are visible, the anger undeniable. The choices are still there, waiting to be taken or ignored. So what happens next? That, my friends, is the mystery still unfolding. Tell me, what do you think? Is Britain sleepwalking into disaster, or can this nation still change its course before it's too late? Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and join us again, because the story of Britain's future has only just begun.